I got to tell you, what, as I mentioned, triggered the call. In the research for this Billy Webb, I came across some articles, which you have before you. These are in the Jamestown Post-Journal. And reading about the likes of Hugh Bedient and Swat Erickson, sort of golden names of another era. And then we came up with guys like Stanley Carlson. And all of a sudden, there appears Leon Button. Now, must tell you that my dad owned a camp up on Polder Road, and so the name Button, Button Valley, has always been very near and dear to us, even though we live in Jamestown. So, having seen this in the article, 1935, and then to look in the phone book and see, my gosh, there's Leon Button in Panama, and then having the nice conversation with you, you're a natural for this event, Leon. So maybe give us a little bit of background regarding you, when you were born, and a little bit of, I'd like to know your story.
Well, he spoke about the Button Valley Road, and I lived and born on Button Valley Road. And went to school there, graduated, but if you wanted to know what I was born, it was February 21st, 1911, so that makes me, what, 87? Be 88 next Thursday. And when I talked to Greg, I said, you know, I've forgotten a lot of things. And well, let me tell you this, I had select stroke a year ago, and so I'll tell you this now, that I'm fortunate to be here. I can walk, talk, have a good time yet. And, but it has affected me some. I'll be ready to speak a name and it's gone. That's embarrassing. Well, I went to school in Panama and played ball. Maybe I should go back to my parents. My dad used to play ball ahead of me, country baseball. So every night he would play baseball with me. Pepper game, we call him, toss and catch. So all the way through my life, baseball was my favorite sport. And in high school, back to high school, small community, I think it was called them the C school. A, B, and C, that was all depend on the enrollment of the class in the school. We were a small school, but when it came to baseball, we were first. And to this day, I can back and remember, and I think there's 3 boys that are still living. One of them is in Texas, the other one is out in Ohio, I think the other one is in Florida. Otherwise, I'm a survivor. And we had a good size of the school, we took them all over. And that was in the final years of the school life, is pitched 2 no-hit, no-run games. And I think it was against Sherman and Clymer. I'm sure about Clymer. Sherman was one, and it was Clymer. And I remember I received letters about it. People that, parents, I guess, about congratulating me on it. I will say at this point, all the articles in the papers and the letters, I didn't have time to say them. It didn't bother me whether my name was in the paper or not. I had a good time playing ball, period. So then it come about in 1934. I went to Beckley, West Virginia, to a school and training camp. And I was fortunate enough to I was the last one to be cut loose. The fellow manager said that, Leon, we've got the fast league down here, and but if we can help you, he said, there's a town short ways from here looking for ball players. And of course it was a mining district down in Beckley. And they wanted to, and if I wanted to go down there, he would give me a piece of paper to go down and play baseball. There was nothing much you would do, I guess, to pay me, keep me or something, I don't know. Well, when it came time, I decided to come home. And I'll tell you one little story about perhaps why. I don't think the Civil War was over yet. Down in Beckley. And in fact, they told, well, we would have a bunch of guys like that. They're always a hangout. And we had this wrestlers down, they played pool and all, and get all there. And one morning, they even told me that there was a black boy that was caught outside after dark, and I guess they worked him over. I remember that. But I will tell you another instance. I got acquainted with the person that worked there, and one day he said to me, he said, Leon, would you like to go down to, he gave a name to this place. It says it's a dance hall, and you can have a beer or two if you want them. And he said, if you want to go, we're done about 9 o'clock. I was just sure. I guess I was willing. At about 9 o'clock, we went down. He said, well, we might as well walk, just a little 5-minute walk. And it was. We went down. I remember going over the railroad bridge. The place was on the left. And how I remember that was that there was 2 state troopers standing there. And I said, lad, he said, look at this. He said, they have a couple of law enforcement on. He said, yes. He said, the fellow got shot here last night. I hadn't forgot that part of it. Well, then I came back home. Should we go on or what?
Sure, carry on if you want. When everybody gets, maybe we'll take a break, but when everybody gets their food. When you got done with Panama High School, you told me you pitched for the Harmony Merchants?
That was later.
A little later. Okay.
Well, we can go into it.
So after Beckley, then what? You came back here and then...
Yes, played ball. That was with the Harmony Merchants. 32, 33, 34, 35. We won the county league. And the other pitcher, I can name them all, but I'll mention Dutch Lloyd, myself, the 2 pitchers. And I wonder maybe you remember Dutch Lloyd.
Who were some of the other players, if you have them on your mind?
The catcher, Bud Weiser. He was the catcher. I think he's the one that named it. It takes a good catcher to help a pitcher. I'll give it all credit to Bud Weiser. Then next, we had another catcher, T. Kofa. Now we'll go down to the first base was Don Kofa, second base was Bill Fagan, third base a fellow named Ralph Patch, and I don't know if there's anybody, I don't think he's alive yet, but otherwise from that, I'm the only one that's alive in the group, but I'll go on, he played, and Al Lundeen was the shortstop. Now that's Stan Lundeen's, that we know, a father.
What kind of player was he?
Good player. He was a good player, shortstop. They They were all good players. We won the league 4 years ago.
It's a dumb question.
Maybe others were bad.
Don Kofod drove bus at Panama School my senior year, and I was on his bus, Don Kofod.
Oh, no kidding.
And he had the absolute biggest hands that I've ever seen on any man in my life. Every morning, he greeted every student the same way. Manually open that door, get on, and he'd say, good morning, and close the door for an entire year. Good morning. Same way, the same salutation. Everybody on the bus, but his hands were immense. Interesting that he wasn't catcher to the first base.
But speaking of Don, he was long-legged, and I believe probably he stole more second bases than anyone on the team. It didn't look it, but I can tell you that he was halfway there about the second step. Let's see, I got through it. Then the right fielder was Emmett. And if there ever was a man that had a throwing arm that I've seen, he could put a throw from right field, home plate with either one hop or in his glove. And he could hit, but if you knew him, keep the ball up high. that was his weakness. But oh, what an arm he had. Then there was the center fielder. That name's gone. The left fielder was Harold Murray. And then Bob Green, he was a utility infielder, and T. Corfaz was the second at catcher.
Who was your manager?
Bud White.
Oh, okay.
Dale was the center fielder.
Okay.
He was the center fielder. And we had a good ball.
Now, were these folks mainly from the Harmony area?
No, he lived in Jamestown, around, but he was, really don't know.
Yeah.
Max Bailey was his name. Max Bailey.
He's quite a basketball guy.
But the other guys, Lee and all, were from around Panama N.Y.
Yes,
There.
yes.
Yeah.
That's why they call it Harmony Merchants.
Where was the field at?
When you go by what was the Asheville School, as you turn left up there, turn right on the first road, and it's all big. And by the way, the only time I ever hit a home run, I did it there. The ball got away from him, I think.
I'm trying to visualize it. There was
The fire department now.
Llama Club or?
No. Past the Asheville School, which Resource Center took over.
Oh, yeah,
Turn
yeah.
right on Cedar Avenue or
Back
Stewart
there.
Avenue.
It's back to here.
It's the open area. They
Yeah.
still play softball. and
My kids have played, okay, yeah. Okay. And as a result of that success, what did you play a position other than pitcher for the Harmony? Did you play a position other than pitcher for Harmony Merchants?
I can remember playing shortstop a couple of times,
Yeah.
third base a couple of times. They wanted to fill in, I guess I took it myself.
As a pitcher, what was your best pitch?
I had pretty good control with the curveball.
Curveball?
They call them a slider now, but mine went like this. We used to call them an outdraft.
Yeah, I remember that. And I'll draw. And a roundhouse. Remember the roundhouse?
And was it during that time period, how did you get, before we take a break for food, how did the Spiders, it seemed like the Spiders, as a semi-pro team, sort of took the best, not only from just this area, but from Buffalo as well. Obviously, you got their attention. I mean, you should be honored with the fact that you're even on their team. How did they pick you out of all the players in the area to play on this semi-pro team? Do you recall?
I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
That was another day. First time I went down there and I wound up playing or coaching third base, but I think that was after the main Spider team was gone, I believe.
but apparently Stanley Carlson and you and others, if you look down, it's sort of like an all-star team of people from the area.
Every one of them is good players. And in all that list, I'll say enough, I can't place first, like third base. And I remember all the rest of it, and I should have, I don't know why.
Was that Leo Swin that played here?
Well, let's take a break as you can have a chance to enjoy, and then we'll pick that up a little bit later. This is terrific.
Russ, is that the Leo Swin, the bowler that we put in Hall of Fame right now?
Yeah.
It was a great picture.
First year.
Leon.
They started out as two trucks.
Who'd you call on, the contractors?
Road highway superintendents, all through the county, and down through the Pennsylvania line, Pine Grove, Warren, Conowanga Township, down there.
Leon, if you're all set, I'd like to get started again. Probably pausing the action. Looking at the sheets that we passed out here, you said as you mentioned the fact that most of the names are familiar to you. Most of them are not familiar to me, though I've read them about some of these guys. If you look at the front page, you've got it says Spiders, Swamp, Quarry 9 by 13 to 3, and it has a box score, and it mentions some names down there. Tell me a little bit about guys like Dave Anderson and Leo Swin.
Good player, good player. Where did you get the names here? Oh, yeah.
If you look at the box score, and I know you mentioned the fact other than Firth, the names kind of meant something to you.
Where do we start? Dave Anderson, he was sort of not too large. He was quick, fast, good ball handler, good player. Squin played first base. He was a good player. Carl Carlson, center fielder. He was fast. He was a very, very good glove man. Got it. That was it. Never come to first, third base, and you know I can't place that man. And then there's George Goodell, played second base. He lives in Florida now. Lefty Pratt, left field, but he also pitched. Now the lefty, when he would pitch, he'd get warming up, and then now all at once the ball would take off and go through the backstop. They always thought he did that to maybe players to look, watch out, he's wild. Well, he was wild. Now, Estrada, he was a very good catcher. He was caught for, let's see, Noah's Ark most of the time that I know of.
What was his first morning?
Morning Estrada. And then there was Stan Carlson. He was pretty good size. He's a lot bigger than I was. That takes that team.
What about guys like Rudy Carlson? Does that name mean anything to you?
Yes, he played for Jamestown High School. He was a big man when he was a boy. I guess the way he was tall and wide, and
I think he just passed away not too long ago. He was in Florida.
Wasn't Rudy Carlson the one that we used to go up to the oil field and see him hit the ball up on top of the roof on that left field in that red barn up there?
Ben, he was capable of it.
Yeah.
In the research on Billy Webb is quoted as saying that of all the players he saw up at Selron Park, it included a lot of the major leaguers who had come into town, including Babe Ruth. Rudy Carlson was the guy who hit the longest ball he'd ever seen out of Selron Park. So he must have been
I don't know. I'd say Babe Ruth did. He played there one time.
He did indeed.
But let's not take anything. If Rudy wants it, let him take it.
Did you happen to? Were you at that game when Babe Ruth was here? Do you remember that at all?
Yes, I think my father that. But when you mentioned Babe Ruth, went to Cleveland. My dad took me to Cleveland to see him play along with Lou Gehrig, and I always remembered that. Lou Gehrig worked around first base, and I would say it as if he was on springs. I never saw a first baseman smooth. Even today, you watch TV and knows. I never saw a first baseman who could move so gracefully as Lou Gehrig.
What about, you talk about Budweiser. Does the name Anton Spetz mean anything to you?
Yes, Tony Spett. Later, when I went from the Harmony Merchants into the Red and White, and into let's see,
You sent the gentleman to us?
Bill, not Bill Nagel, Joe Nagel.
Joe Nagel, yes.
And Spetz. They were.
Joe was a third baseman and a manager for a long time.
Yes. You know, I told you I had a stroke, and that name is gone from me just like that. That turns me up.
Well, I look at my dad right now, and I can't remember his first name, so it's the same thing. He doesn't want to remember mine.
You remember Randy though?
Leon, did Budweiser go on to be a member of the police department? Is that the same guy? Weiser?
And I believe it was only he had a badge.
Yeah. He was a member of the Jamestown Police Department, and he was a guard in Mount Rockwell.
Well, that could be it. He was the one that I'm talking about as the catcher.
Yeah.
And now he played a little history on him that I remember. He went up to the Rochester, as high as Rochester, slid into second base and broke his leg. And that was sort of the end of his career. So he could throw a baseball from home to second base and just about that far off the ground, I'm telling you.
So he played in the International League, right?
Did your paths cross at all with Hugh Bedience or Swat Erickson? Were they pitching still?
No, I went to, remember, what was the other one? It was listed there. I saw Swat Erickson pitch at the town picnic one time. And then, I don't think I remember, not Hugh Bedian, but there's another one that's listed.
Nate Dreyer?
Dreyer.
Yeah.
And I think he pitched the time that they played the Homestead Braves, I'm not sure, but
He did, yeah.
I saw Nate Dreyer.
Yep.
Did you know a pitcher named Johnson was from Warren and pitched in the Giant organization? I don't remember his first name. He was pitching like in the late 20s. Maybe from Warren who pitched up in this area. Wes, can you think of anything?
I think it was first name.
Well, I know his daughter's name is Jim Swanson, but I can't think of
Johnson.
his first. He's in the Warren Hall of Fame.
He played for some teams here in Chautauqua County.
Yeah. I can't think of his first name.
Lane, what was the town picnic like?
Beg pardon?
What was the town picnic like? What'd they do?
They always had a ball game. And they hired, they played at Panama Rocks, and I wasn't up there yet. And Swat Erickson, he asked me if I saw it. He was home. Some way they wanted another pitcher, and they got Swat to come up and pitch for him. I remember that. And instead of letting him start, there was a fellow by the name of Wade that was pitching. He lived in Frewsburg. They got a few runs, and then they let Swat in. It was too late. They lost the ball game. But at that time, they used to say Swat was lazy because, he went up and pitched for what? Washington.
Washington, yep.
they thought he was lazy, but I saw him hit a ball up there to the Panama Rocks. It should have been a home run. We only made it to third, but he did. To me, he didn't hurt. I don't know, maybe he did. Maybe he couldn't. But I remember that. He just sort of, to me, he just lollygag. Made 3 bases.
What was Swat's, in a sense, as a pitcher? Was he a fastball pitcher? Was he did he have stuff, junk? What was his claim to fame? Do you know? Do you recall?
Well, he was calling all around pitcher. He had speed. He had control. He had to have something. He made the Washington Senators.
Yep.
No, I did see him play, but not. It was Greyer that played against the Homestead Braves.
Mhm.
I saw that.
What do you remember about the Homestead Grays?
One person that I remember was Smokey Joe Williams, they called him.
Mm-hmm.
Catcher would hold his glove out like that, and you wouldn't even see it move. And then the catcher, I think, whistled through his teeth. You know how that shrill whistle? Bang! It went into there, and it was like I never saw anything like it. Never. Unless it was Johnny Bench.
It sounds good, it's a strike.
What's that?
If it sounds good, it's a strike.
No, boy.
I heard that a lot of times.
Sir.
It would have popped just like you. He'd whistle, bang, here goes that. They do it when they're warming up on the sidelines. They didn't go way out in the field. They wound up there between the second, or third and home, or first out there.
Did you like Lyle being your umpire when you pitched?
No, I was ahead of him.
You didn't hear me, did you? As a batter, I can tell you, he's a pitcher's umpire.
Leon, how much money did you guys make playing baseball on the weekend? Would you get $5, $10 to pitch a
No,
game?
we just played ball.
You didn't?
The only time you would get anything, you went to town picnic. You mentioned town picnics. That I tried to put one in for myself. We went to town picnic over to Sinclairville. I had that, Dutch Lloyd, and the catcher that I mentioned. And I never dreamed that I'd be pitching. When they announced the pitchers, it was Kofod and Button. That was non-Kofod. Budweiser, he sat on the bench. And I'd always pitched. They said you want to remember something. Why remember that? I think the stakes there were 75 and 25 or 75 and 50. That's the only thing you got. And then you went into a pool. You didn't get any. And when they announced that I pitch, and it was T. Kofod, he was a good pitcher, but he probably wouldn't come up to Bud. So I remember this one. He called for straight ball. Bang! It was a ball. Another one was straight. I couldn't find that plate. I had 3 pitches, straight balls. Never found a plate. Kofod squatted down and gave me a curveball. Bang. 1, 2. Struck him out on 3 pitches. I remember that. I couldn't get a straight ball over the 3 curveballs that got the better. I remember that.
Can't get the fastball over the plate, you gotta do something different.
We talked about Billy Webb. Now, does that mean anything to you when you were there?
No, I was young. He was in his prime, I suppose, coach or managing that team.
Yeah.
Because I know my dad took me to Homestead Braves. He was there then. But no, I really don't remember.
Does Dick Illig mean anything to you?
Yes, the name. His picture, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Worked at Mount Iron.
Yeah, maybe this was in the city league.
And he was the manager. He probably would have been the manager in '35 when Billy Webb had the stroke, he sort of took over the team that year that you were on the team. Yeah. Hugh Bedient, did you get to ever see him pitch at all?
No.
Leon Carlson?
No. I
No?
don't think. Of course, I was only just a little shitter back. That's 60-some years ago.
Well, I might, when we have that dinner for Billy Webb, one of the guests together with you will be Harry Martinson. And Harry tells the story because he spoke, a year ago, and he talked about Smokey Joe Williams and said the exact same story you just gave to us.
Have it straight?
Yeah, absolutely. Too funny. It was wonderful. He talked about Smokey Joe Williams and the catcher with just same thing you just did. It was.
By the way, I called Harry a couple of days ago and see if he'd be able to come down here. And we lost touch a little bit, so I stopped this morning, tried maybe we could pick him up on the way down. But he's a little bit under the weather.
Is it?
As long as you're talking with him, I'd like to make this comment. I've known him since he moved into the township and from Cleveland. And he comes around every year and asks me to help him with tickets. Well, I always buy some and fill them out. So he's been a staunch supporter and worker of the old timers.
Yeah, well,
That's Ed Rush right here.
The only thing, like everybody else, I was in town about 10 years before I even found out about the old timers. And I said, geez, I'd like to go see one of their games and see if I could fit in. You're talking, I was 60 years, almost 70 years old then, 68. And I said, well, I wanted to see where I could fit in. Well, I was down to one practice, and I was starting to play some softball. And I got I was out to the outfield, and the ball's coming out, and I put my glove up behind me, so used to the softball. But I certainly would have liked to have the 10 years that I missed here in Jamestown that I could have used. But I enjoy it still. But I'm on the bottom line now. Parker will attest to that.
Leon, you did tell me a story when I think you were, I don't know if it was Beckley or you were certainly away from home at a camp of some sort of team, and there was a little miscommunication regarding they were getting some pictures from Detroit. The manager was going to Detroit to see if he could get some pictures. You want to tell that story? It's pretty humorous.
I'll do it a little later. Why not? I'll go back. Bring it up later. I'll go back.
Sure.
When I was in school, missed this. We didn't have track or anything, but they had, I believe it was 1934, first 1930. 2-mile cross-country run. I don't think it's the first one they ever had in Stockton schools. And there was 3 of us went from Panama. The name of Eddie was supposed to be the winner of us. But the story of telling we lined up, they took us to the automobile and we go back up in the country somewhere. We got out on the meadow, what was the meadow, and there's a road here. And I don't know where I was sleeping, I guess. The next thing I knew, here they were running. I was about 50, 75 feet. And there's some other guys with me too. They must have just started us and let them go. And first you ran off this meadow and into a highway, and then you went up the hill probably close to half a mile long. And right up to the top of the hill, there was a fellow in front of me. He threw up his hands and he says, "I'll be damned if I'm going to die here." It was Ken Rowe from Sherman. And I knew him then, and he's still alive and lives up towards Buffalo. I said, "I'll be damned if I'm going to lie here." Well, Frewsburg was first, Casadega was second, and Mayville, I think, was third. Panama was fourth, which was the fifth was Houston. So, but that was my track record.
Who coached the baseball team in Panama?
You got any teacher that loved baseball. We didn't. I think the first coach, well, I don't know, did you teach something besides coaching, didn't you?
Yes.
Well, Al Gore
Yeah.
was one of the, really the up and coming. When I went to school, you just picked out a player that thought maybe, we played basketball, but didn't have much.
So you graduated like 1930s?
And it's, I don't know, baseball stories are my favorite, I guess. All right.
Leon, I may be confused, but back in the 20s, 30s, early 30s in school that you're talking about, there wasn't consolidation. And Panama wasn't Panama Central. You're talking about the Harmony.
Yeah, yes.
Just a little
Yeah,
small.
yes. We had grade
these
six,
blocks.
grade six school.
Yeah, there was still Asheville School, there was still Rockville School,
Yes.
and there was Watts Lab.
K through 12, little one-room schoolhouses. And that'd be
Well,
close.
yeah, but they would go to Panama for their high school. No, there wasn't Nashville High School, was there?
There wasn't a Panama High School back then.
No,
There wasn't a Panama High School. You could go to Lakewood if you went to high school.
No,
weren't you?
you know, that's,
No, there was Niobe School too. I mean, all those little towns had their own schools, and it wasn't until centralization that all the schools came together. So the Panama School that Leon is talking about really drew from just the Panama community, correct?
no, they consolidated.
Oh, they had.
I had 1 or 2 years, I don't know which it was, it's just the very end. Yes.
Well, maybe they had two consolidations. I know Asheville came in 54, 56. So there must have been a consolidation of Harmony, North Clymer, Panama, Watts West, and Iowa in the 30s.
Took, to see, they left the grade school in Nashville. They came in later.
Yes.
Like 54, 56.
See, the high school students came to Panama, and then they finally closed up Asheville, all the way.
Well, no, because even when Asheville was still a separate school, people could go to Chicago school as well
Yes,
as they had
yes.
an election. So
Yes.
all Lakewood. Right?
Yes.
There must have been two consolidations in my area.
Now we're gonna jump back to that story.
Yeah. There's one thing he was telling me, I'm not sure, the one I'm going to bring out, which I thought was very amusing, but that's toward the end of the story. Go
Yes,
ahead.
no, I'll wait at the end, I'm gonna keep this one.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's the best.
What kind of crowds did you get at the games?
Sunday crowd, really, think about it. We were, Asheville, Harmony Merchants, we were packed. Third base line in cars were there. Third base, first base, real crowds. I don't know, well, that was a good ball game back then. They didn't have this. If I can go back to say this, it was the Harmony Merchants, Westside had a team, Olin had a team, Mayville, Ripley, Sherman, Westfield, all those. They had good ball players. Or I thought.
Who was the best? Who's the best player you ever saw?
Who I ever saw them?
In this area,
I don't know. There was had to be one of these boys, I think. They were all good. Every one of them had a good trade. I'm looking at the name George Goodell.
Yep.
He could cover a lot of territory. He was a good player. But I looked at his name, Gibbs Swanson. He could catch or play shortstop. But he isn't, I noticed he isn't in here at all. He was a very, very good player.
Is he the guy also known as Rabbit Swanson? Is that the? I saw that name.
Well, he played with the Spiders.
Yeah.
I think I saw him once when he was really playing with the Spiders. I wouldn't like to there was a lot of good players in these county league.
You're terrific. You're terrific. Storyteller, and I appreciate that. But I've got to get to this final story here. You're killing me.
So you want to get rid of
No,
end the
go
meeting?
ahead.
No. If you have, no, I'm happy to see. But
Well, let's see. What's the next step? Where are we now? Where did we end up?
Well, you were going to tell
Second base.
You told me about the fact that you had pitched, and you were I don't know if it was in Ohio, and that somehow you thought you were going to get cut from the team.
That was in Beckley.
It was in Beckley? Okay.
And they asked, they'd give me a job to go down. Said they wouldn't have to work the coal mine, but they wanted ball players, and they was willing to see if they could live, and I came home. So then the following year, take up from there, just don't remember how, but I wound up down in Huntington.
Yeah.
And there was 78 players out there. When you would play, they'd pick out your team, and then the rest of them would be batters. They'd bat. The pitcher might pitch 3 innings, maybe 1 inning, 2 innings, and then the catcher, there's maybe 2 innings. They were looking them all over. And one night, we were talking, and there was a Doyle and Waller Mills from there. And Walter and I we had the same rooming house. And we'd get together at night, and he was talking. He said to us one night, he said, about a certain fellow, he said, if I couldn't do that, the both of them baked brown bread. They started. He was the catcher. Well, very next day, they asked him to catch. It wasn't 1 inning, 2 innings, 3 innings. I bet he caught 3 or 4 or 5 innings, and I'm sure they were looking him over. Looking back at him. And then finally, he got up to bat, and he hit one out through the field. He ought to have been 3 bases. He stumbled and fell down, and he was lucky to make second. When he came back home, one of the managers hollered at him. He says, "What's the matter? Can't you run?" And he squared up, and this is what he said. He said, "What the hell do you expect for nothing?" Well, that year, Monty Merriam, now does that ring a bell?
Sure.
He was in camp, there's 78. You could see it, he stood out about everywhere. He'd go like this, shortstop, Slatchmere, his legs wasn't any bigger around my arm. And he'd go like this, and the next, you'd think, well, there goes the ball, but instead of that, it was over to first base. That year he went to Columbus, and the next year he went to Rochester, and the next year he went to St. Louis, and he was there his entire career. So, well then, after I was caught, I don't know this, I can't even remember really how it happened. After somebody told me, well, I got out of that camp, and I guess I don't know whether I wasn't ready to go home or what. He said, "Listen, you go to Tiffin, Ohio, and they're looking for players." He handed me this paper. Well, I went up to Tiffin, Ohio, and so when I got up to Tiffin, Ohio, she had practice down there at Huntington. I was getting better and better and better. But I was a pitcher that needed a lot of warming up. Remember that. And so we got up to Tiffin, and I don't know, we joined in with somebody somehow. And I was there, and one day I was pitching for bat in practice. And the catcher, he was down there, and he called for a curveball, and it was Zeke Clements. I remember this name. Because he had been the home run hitter the year before. And I gave him a curveball. Must be the catcher called for it. Down it went. The catcher didn't even catch it on his glove. It hit here. He jumped up behind the plate and threw it back at me. And, you know, that didn't set too good. Well, anyways, the manager, he come out around the backstop, and he said, "Button, throw another." Well, if I ever threw 2 perfect pitches, that was it. That next one I pitched a little bit outside, and he didn't have a chance at it. Well, then that night, that's when they signed me up. That went along good till it, rainy weather, we hung around for about a week. And I thought it was terrible. Then one, we were supposed to go to Upper Sylvester to play. We went up, and I remember this, and there was, it started a left-handed pitcher. And here I'm sitting on the bench, the back and forth. Seemed though the left-handed pitcher was using his head in a way, because he had to bear down, he could. And he did. And then it came the very last thing. Now here's where the downfall comes. Maybe I wouldn't have to tell it, but I can remember it very plain. He says, "Button, warm up." Here I'm sitting on the bench, hadn't warmed up, I don't believe, if I threw over a dozen calls, they stopped, put me in, and he came walking out the mound. He says, "Walking, there's a man on first, third, one away." This is why I remember. And he says, "Listen, we'll walk and fill the bases." That was fine. Maybe Lyle could answer a little something. So we were going to watch the guy. And to this day, for a split second, I must have been in left field. Because I made it went in stretch, I guess, and look, instead of the catcher being there with his hand out here like you would expect him, he squatted down behind the plate. I had just a instinct, I guess. But there he was down there. I wasn't going to throw it up here, but what I ought to have done was drilled it up there and let him. But he was down there, and what I did, all in this, I put it inside and sort of low, but he hit the ball. And it went to shortstop, who was Johnny Corbin. And Johnny went to throw it to second. Of course, the second baseman, there you are again, he was caught flat-footed. He hadn't moved. He threw it. He got him out of home plate. Well, that saved the day. But remember, I was supposed to walk the man. And, well, then before we got through, the sad part of it was, I don't know whether, I think maybe I walked the second one. And the third one was just a little, just a little. We lost the ball game. That was the downfall. And I mean, I had the chance and didn't come through. So that was the. I bumped up. Then I decided I guess I better come home. I just what I did. But he was. From there, as they came home, I still played, I think, the last year with Harmony Merchants, and then City League was with Oaks, Memphis. But so what my career, and it's laughable, I played for the old timers, red, blue, and red. I was on the red. We were doing fine, and for some reason I was playing second base. Well, you don't wear baseball shoes, after you're through with your short. Of course, I had these on instead of, I always was like short-footed. And I went and got the ball, just as I picked up the ball, caught my spike, fell down, and the man was safe. Now, in that very same game, there was the left fielder. I saw his name, I can tell it to you, left fielder. It was a high ball, went to the left field. He looked up like this, bang, down to the top of the head. So when I remembered that, how I fell down, I says, Liam Button, you're through. If you want to go back about something, fine, I'll try to enter in.
That's a great story. You've been wonderful. I really appreciate both of you coming down today in the weather and sharing us your life story. Anybody have any questions for Liam? If not, I'm going to say thank you very much for your time. This has been terrific. If you,
Thank you. I've enjoyed it. I thought someone coming down anyway, but didn't know too much about it.
He was trying to talk himself out of it. He called me and said, what's going on down there? Well, you convinced him that there's nothing to worry about. I said, well, you go down there and you play it by ear. But I go to see Bill Webb, who you say is no relation. I also see Dick Wakefield, the old timers. And when you get to them, they come up with the same old story. They got pictures and everything. When I go down there, just to sell them a couple of tickets, I'm in there for an hour and a half. And I think some of those stories, I think I can picture them already. But it's wonderful to listen to that. And I'm really thankful that I brought him for my own use. I enjoyed it as much as he did. So we did.
well, thank you for coming. We hope you both come back. And
Well, let's see, I'm going to have one more story. Oh, the first game I pitched for the City League, that was the Hell Shepherd, Red and White. They came up, I know, down to play. Yep, baseball, I didn't care where it was, I was ready to play. Well, I was up in Allen Park, the lower field. It so happened that Dutch Lloyd was pitching that day for the maybe I've got it. Hope Smithers. No, it wasn't. Well, I don't mean to make any. It was the Italian. I always think of it as the Italian team. Orange Spreader.
Liberty,
No.
Spirals,
That's something.
National Worst.
Well, anyways, I pitched the Reds. Dutch is pitching for the other team in the City League. And it turned out to be a pitcher's group. And the Red, we run either, it was 2-1 or 3-2. It was always, so here Dutch and I were on the Harmony Merchants, wound up pitching the game. And, well, I can say I won the game, because Red and White, we won the game. And Len Sorensen, now I don't think his name has been, never saw him before. I went down there, they were all strikers coming, really. And he was the catcher. We got along fine.
Sure. Well, thank you once again. This has been terrific, Leanne. And we do hope you come back, and especially come back I'll make sure you get a notice here the first part of March when we do that thing on Billy Webb Spiders. We can make sure that Harry gets down for that as well. And if there are any other old timers that you might think of who might want to get out, I'd love to have as our guest.